And
I would like to ask for that one. Sorry. That ebook that you just wrote, is that a free PDF or something like it that you can
it's
download it there?
absolutely free. You can find it at homereadingcoach.com. It's called the Dyslexia Roadmap for Families. It's maybe 90 pages, and goes through the frequently asked questions that I see online. I wrote it because parents were entering these Facebook groups and they were saying, I think my kid has dyslexia. What
Oh
do
my
I
God.
do?
Yeah,
And they were getting a lot of information. Some of it was misinformation, or people were saying, you must do this. And no child with dyslexia is identically like another child. It is a
definitely.
collection of strengths and weaknesses. So really just wanting to give families a starting point and filling it with a lot of high quality resources like the
Hmm.
International Dyslexia Association, or um, there's a group in the United States that's a parent advocacy grassroots group called Decoding Dyslexia, where they're really helping the parents learn how to advocate for their kids. And so just a variety of resources for them, because
Amazing.
it was making me crazy that people were giving them,
Everybody, yeah, of course.
outdated information. So
Complete
yeah.
misinformation there, just roaming around the whole internet, and they were just getting it totally bad and the wrong ideas.
I mean, some of it was perfectly great information, but the other thing that was happening was that they would come with this concern and this worry, and it felt like a lot of providers were jumping on, I do
Yeah.
this, I do this, I do this. And that's the other thing in this book is I, for the United States, really go through who or what are the certifying organizations that teach trained professionals,
Got it.
and what kind of questions you're going to want to ask. Because if you have a teacher who says, I've been teaching kids to read for 20 years, well, guess what? We've been teaching them wrong. Are you a classroom teacher? Are you trained in Orton Gillingham? Like, what are you doing? So, really trying to give them, you can go to this organization and you can search for providers. You can go here, and ask your speech therapist these questions. So, yeah, just giving
Amazing.
them
So
a good
so
start.
by the end of this episode, what I'm gonna do is just ask you for the links, and I'm just gonna hang in
Sure,
there in the comment section so people can just easily go there, how they're gonna
that would be
read,
great.
how they can reach you if they have questions, where they can actually meet you or where they can find you. So we're gonna do this at the end, and I'm gonna just put them here so everybody, if somebody has
Perfect.
questions or
That would be
whatever,
wonderful.
they will go straight to you. So now that we were talking a little bit about the problems that we've been facing, not only teachers but also parents, by not knowing how to deal with these type of issues or how to manage this. So the consequences are also quite catastrophic if we don't actually take
Sorry.
action. So what actually happens to a child psychologically when they struggle to read early on?
So, early on, when a child really starts to notice that other kids are catching on and they are not, their self esteem, their self concept really can plummet. Most kids with dyslexia, particularly if it has not been appropriately addressed, have a variety of mental health indicators like depression and anxiety. They sometimes, if they're really cognitively very advanced or precocious, they might be able to fake it by
Mm,
memorizing the look of words till about third grade, and then they just can't do it. They have a lot of it. That's called masking. And
mm,
those kids have a lot of anxiety. It takes so much effort to mask your struggles. So, and then the thing that we know is that, again, if we can intervene here by the end of first grade, we can get them on grade level a lot of times around third grade, and then they'll maintain. But if the child is struggling at the end of first grade, they're likely going to struggle their whole lives. Um, People who are not reading proficient, I mean, they have numbers like they earn almost 30,000 less a year, or they, this thing happens. If you go to sort of the criminal justice system, the prisons,
Oh,
juvenile detention, uh, an extraordinarily high number of people in those systems have some sort of reading disability and are not proficient readers. That doesn't mean that if you can't read, you're automatically going
no,
to have,
definitely
reading
not,
problems,
but it
but
affects
too,
psychologically.
there's too high a correlation. It limits your access to careers, to financial stability. And so there are long-term repercussions. The emotional piece is really solid. I will tell families that, a lot of times parents will tell me that they don't want their child to know that they have dyslexia because they don't want their child to use it as a crutch. And
Oh,
while I really, really understand and honor that you want your child to be independent and to try their hardest,
yeah,
um, the actually what that's going to backfire. So to families, I really suggest that they let their child know that they have dyslexia, because that's the first step towards the child claiming and owning their dyslexia, and
yeah.
then starting to understand how their brain learns, what kind of accommodations they might need, how they study best. So when I work with kids, I tell parents, I'm going to talk about dyslexia with your child. Are you okay with that? If you're not, then I'm not the right person for you. Because I'll ask them, have they ever heard of the word dyslexia? Do they know what it means? And I'll tell them, your brain is designed in a way, it has a condition called dyslexia. Have you heard that word? And I define it in a very simple way that I borrowed from Sally Shaywitz in her book, Overcoming Dyslexia. I just say it as, it's when a smart kid has trouble reading. Does that sound like you? And that's usually a watershed moment for the kids, because
Yeah.
then we'll talk about, like, what are the things that you're good at? Here are the things that I'm good at. What are the things your sister's good at? So you're good at these things. Reading is a struggle. What are the things your sister struggles with? What are the things? So really just kind of normalizing that this is just, we all have strengths. We all have struggles. Yours happens to be reading. And then sharing with them that there's a specific way of teaching that we know will help their brains read better. And I know how to do it. And that's why we're going to work together.
Hmm.
And that really gives the kids ownership. And it's the beginning of the repair of
Hmm.
the mental health, self esteem kind of hit that the kids have been taking, is to really start restoring an identity. And, I've had parents tell me that this one parent said that the teacher came to her because that day in class, her daughter, who was probably about 10 at the time, was working on something in class. And the kid next to her said, what is that you're doing? And she explained to him, oh, it's called Nessie. I'm doing this. And he said, well, why aren't you doing what we're doing? Why are you doing that? And she
Oh,
said, oh, I have dyslexia. And he said, what's dyslexia? And she goes, it's when smart kids struggle with reading. And he went, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. And the teacher, told the mom that she had overheard this conversation, and they both walked away feeling good about it. And she was really impressed to see that her daughter was so confident
beautiful.
and, you know, And so her mom called me and she said, I asked her, who taught you that? And she said, oh, Faye did. Faye told me what it meant. Um, so I really do think there is a way back, to rebuilding that confidence. A lot of folks with dyslexia have extraordinary talents. Um, I saw this TED talk of a professor at MIT, Michigan
Mhm.
Institute of Technology, that trains a lot of engineers, and he said that they jokingly call it, the MIT learning disability, because he said so many people who come to our school have dyslexia. He was like, they're
Wow.
extraordinary engineers,
Yeah.
their brains are wired in a way where they can think visually, spatially a lot of times. So, another piece that teachers and parents can do is, and like you said, we've got technology at our fingertips. There are some great interviews with really
TED
phenomenal
Talks. Yeah.
um, figures who have dyslexia. Steven Spielberg, who makes a lot of hit movies,
Yeah.
has dyslexia. So it's important. Steve Jobs has dyslexia.
That's another
It's
one.
really important to show kids, yeah, this is hard for you. Look, this was hard for him too. He played to his strengths. Let's figure out your strengths and
Yeah.
continue to develop them, and
Definitely.
really give
But this is
attention to
something
them.
like sometimes I don't know. I think it's treated still like a taboo or
Mm,
some parents maybe I would say it's not socially acceptable to say that maybe the kid has a dyslexia or something like it or whatever. I don't know why, because having dyslexia doesn't mean you have an impediment to become something bigger or better
right.
or something like it. I mean, that has nothing to do with how smart you are.
No, it is not at all tied to intelligence. And I think that's the thing about neurodiversity, whether you're talking about dyslexia, ADHD, autism. I think you need to appreciate that the child, the adult, has a beautiful brain that is capable of so much. If you are only appreciating its capabilities due to reading, I mean, how many awful people out there could read fluently but are not contributing to their communities? So you're right, there can be a I think that I do think that reading is one of those things that families anticipate. They see it as a show of intelligence. Um, but even early readers aren't necessarily going to be um, particularly skilled in reading in the long run. It might be that they're really good code breakers, that they're
Mhm.
able to see patterns and learn codes, right? So I do think that parents are very used to looking at that, and it can be confusing and upsetting and hard for parents, and one of the things that teachers or a lot of adults will say, which is very damaging, is that the child just needs to try harder.
Mm.
That is usually often not the case of what's happening. It's usually the instruction. And that's the other thing that I would say is the dyslexia isn't the problem. The instruction of the child with dyslexia is the problem.
Eh, that's a different one. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is another part that we were talking, the consequences and everything that actually comes along with it. So we have two things that we need to actually just think now. Because yes, we've been actually talking about how to tackle, how to identify, how to help. We are giving the audience, parents, teachers, I mean the tools. I mean, this is the website. Here you have something that it's free. You don't have to pay it. Go,
Right.
it's easy. Go read it, check, learn,
And
help.
within it, there are a
Easy.
lot of clickable links for a
Oh,
lot of other high quality resources. Yes.
amazing. So, I mean, there's no excuses. But now this is one side, but let's go to the system. The system and the
Okay.
reality, because this is another part that yeah, it's another layer. as you said at the beginning. We got different
Right.
layers. And
Sure.
if the research is clear, and this is something we were talking, why hasn't the system fixed this yet?
A lot of states are trying to legislate changes, and there are some phenomenal advocacy groups out there. There's one called Parents for Reading Justice, and they are really tackling the state of Ohio and taking them to
Mm,
task. They're giving them the names of the exact
good
colleges that
job,
are not
people there.
teaching aligned. They're giving them the names of the curriculum that have been adopted by school districts that does not align. So there are certainly some people out there who are pushing hard and doing phenomenal work. There's a disconnect between legislating and implementation. That's always a big disconnect. There also is kind of a wide playing field. So I'm in the state of Texas. Texas has sort of a broad range of the kinds of things that can be utilized to teach kids with dyslexia. And there's so much room for interpretation. Um, that's an issue. Um, and then there's just a lot of um, ideas about data points and what's important to know. So there's still a wait to fail. Parents will tell me that a school will say, "Oh, we can't even identify that until third grade." Not true. Oh well, they're passing their classes, so they can't have dyslexia. Also not true. I mean, if you're looking for failing grades to know that a kid has dyslexia, how many kindergartners do you know that fail kindergarten? It's probably not 20%, but they're going to have dyslexia. I had a family tell me that, oh, well, they scored, X on this test. And I said, that's not a test to identify signs of dyslexia. And it was a test where actually the questions and the answers were read to the children, which was age appropriate because they were in first grade.
Mhm.
But also, one of the two passages were read to the children. And this is a very bright girl. So she could kind of muddle through a little bit of the other passage and guess right enough to pass. It's not an appropriate data point. Um, so there really is a lot of work to be done. And parents parents are doing a lot of heavy lifting in raising their voices. It's disappointing because it shouldn't have to be that way. But I'm a
Exactly.
parent of a kid with a lot of, two kids who have different learning issues. And sometimes, you have to do what you didn't expect to do. And you have to learn a lot more about something that you never thought you were going to have to learn about. And it is really frustrating. But that is one of the reasons why I've built a program. It's called Reading Breakthrough, and it is an e-course. So I've created all the materials for it, and the videos are me training the parents and showing them how to do the lesson so that they can
Beautiful.
do it with their children. Because sometimes it gets to that point where you just really have to, until the school gets with it,
It's kind of
you
disappointing
you have to
anyway. Kind of
kickstart it.
disappointing, but it's kind of disappointing, but also like it makes me feel really happy to see that in your area, I mean, parents are more aware about this situation and they're stepping in. They're not actually
Well,
waiting for schools to do
some
what we're supposed
some
to do.
are now. Some are now. What I will say is that where I think there can be a disconnect is, like I said, in the United States, about 60%. No, I'm sorry, about 69% of fourth graders are not proficient readers. That includes about
69%.
30%. Mhm. And that includes
Whew.
30% of that group are children of college educated parents. So, which indicate that it might not be directly correlated to economic impacts, that it's across, it's
Mm-hmm.
across the culture. And another statistic that's really scary when you know that statistic is that something close to 90% of parents in the United States think that their child is reading on grade level because they don't know. And
My
so you
goodness.
have most kids not reading on grade level and most parents thinking that their kids are being taught to read and are succeeding on grade level. So that actually, those two together is really horrifying. And, I started my program because every week I'm talking to parents who have been fighting schools for 2.5, 3. I met somebody fighting the school for 5 years before they determined that he was dyslexic and began giving him services. And then I think it was only 20 minutes a day. So for the parents who want to do it, I want to help them.
God, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that I got really interested in your profile the first time I actually saw you. I think that service that you're doing is comes from a teacher, from a teacher from the heart, because there are many around. They call themselves teachers, but just in the outside. But that
Yes.
teacher, the one that has the service inside, that's the one who that we need more. The US
Right.
needs more. The world needs more so we
The
can
world
actually
needs
help
more.
all
Well,
the kids.
uh-huh. And the other thing is somebody with my qualifications working one-on-one with a child is going to work for years, 4 times a week, very high rates. Um, my program just launched this week and it's priced at $97, and it's got discounts going on because it's during the launch period. So, I mean, that's the other thing is you're right. It comes from the heart because I feel my mission is to help as many kids and families as I can. And so just trying to provide, and for some families, it's not the right option, and
Hmm.
that's fine. I am a big believer that families deserve options. They should not
Definitely.
be forced down one path and have it chosen for them. So if this is a path that they feel is the right choice for them, I want them to have it.
Amazing. So yeah, no, even more now. I'm gonna have to put exactly in details everything on this
Yes,
episode,
I
and I want to
will.
share with everyone. This is something that actually comes from the heart. And when
Yeah,
something comes from the heart, it really works. It really works. And I see it that you work with passion, and that's what we need. Amazing.
right. We do. And I will say parents who do take this up and do this kind of work with their children are really empowered and they're less scared because they understand where their
Definitely.
child's starting from. They see the progress. They understand how to help their child. So if it's the right fit for the parent, it really can be an empowering thing for their family. But
Yes.
yes, I will email you. I'll send you all the links, and I would be
Please.
delighted to hear from any of your listeners.
You must. You must. That's a must. That's a must. So, and finally, it's been already an hour. It's amazing. So, what does reading success really mean beyond
Mm-hmm.
just passing test?
Great. So, the ultimate goal of reading is to comprehend the text that you are reading. So, it's not enough for a kid to pronounce the word correctly. Um, they need to be able to decode it, to read the correct word accurately and at a fluent rate so that their brain can follow along in the thinking. And at the end of the day, having those kinds of conversations, those high level conversations where kids are applying what they've read about, analyzing what they've read about. That's the ultimate goal, is expanding their knowledge base and their understanding of the world and how this information, this story, relates to their lives. So comprehension is the ultimate goal.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, my great audience, wonderful listeners, this has been an amazing, amazing hour. I learned a lot, and I'm really thankful for accepting this invitation. It's been a pleasure. It's been amazing. For sure, we're gonna have a lot of people just interested in this topic, and they will be more aware. Again, thank you very much, Faye,
Thank
for being here.
you.
This is your home anytime that you would like to present something. This
Oh,
is your
I
home.
really appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for all you do and for having me.
Thank you very much, Faye, and until the next time.